Ladies and gentlemen, since the start of April, Bitcoin is upwards about 66%. The broader altcoin market, minus Ethereum, is upwards also about 66%. So Bitcoin and the broader altcoin market are kind of matching each other's performance since April. There's nothing significant going on there. And if you only looked at these two charts, you would assume that we're not seeing an altcoin season. You would assume that this is a pretty neutral market environment and this is just a broad market move. But then you flick over to the Ethereum chart and you see that in the same period of time, Ethereum is upwards close to 180%. Let's be very clear. Ethereum is 3xing, tripling the performance of both Bitcoin and the broader altcoin market. And that has a very direct reason behind it. Now, actually, it has two reasons. One of them is very good, and one of them could be very bad. We have to look into both of them today, and we have to look into how you potentially can go about reacting to this situation. Before we do that, I want you to go ahead and check out the Bitunix Exchange. A lot of people ask me what exchange I use as a trader. I use the Bitunix Exchange, and I don't have a contract with them. I haven't signed anything with them. I don't work for them. I advertise them on my own accord. With my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount permanently attached to your account, as well as up to 8,000 USDT in rewards just by signing up with my link down below. Why would you sign up? Well, it's global. It's non-KYC. It's never been hacked before. It's got all of the functions and pairs that you would expect for a major exchange. For that reason, I use it. And I implore you to consider using it as well. Sign up with my link to help out the channel, help out yourself. Cheers. So it's actually not surprising at all from a regular cryptocurrency money flow cycle perspective to see altcoins lagging behind Ethereum, okay, and Ethereum rarely leading the way this early in the cycle. This is how crypto normally moves. Now, let me explain this very quickly. I did it yesterday. I'm just going to do it again quickly here, then we'll get into some unique analysis. This is the money flow cycle in cryptocurrency. Essentially, the money starts out in USDT in the bear market. When the bear market has bottomed out, people throw their money from USDT and other stable coins in general into Bitcoin. Bitcoin rises. Bitcoin gets upwards to where it is right now. Basically, it rises all the way upwards. Eventually, people get a bit bored of Bitcoin. They get very optimistic and a bit greedy about the market. They're looking for higher returns. Okay, they don't necessarily care to take higher risk. That's when they flip their money into the next best thing, which is Ethereum. So they're not fully greedy yet. They're not losing their minds of greed, but they want something a bit better and a bit more lucrative than Bitcoin. So they throw their money from Bitcoin into Ethereum. And from there, that's what we're seeing right now. We see the Ethereum pump. We see Ethereum take off first. We've seen Ethereum tripling Bitcoin and the broader altcoins market's performance. There's no other explanation, no better explanation than this. That's the step we're up to right now. The next step in this cycle is for the money to trickle down from Ethereum into altcoins. And that will happen when the market investors, when retail deems that Ethereum has become not optimal to invest in anymore, right? The potential returns are not seen as high enough for investing in it, and they get a bit greedy. They see the market's rising. Bitcoin at this point is up very high. Ethereum's up very high as well. And so they start throwing their money into higher and higher risk altcoins. And from there, we go through to the altcoin market. We start out in the high caps, then it pumps through to the mid caps, then it pumps through to the low caps. That's the ideal structure. It's not necessarily always that simple, but this is generally how crypto money flow cycle works. From altcoins, there's nowhere else for the money to go, right? Every single thing that could have pumped has pumped. And essentially everything tops out. People start selling. That leads to a chain reaction. And you see a bear market where people flip their money into USDT from altcoins. And you see the whole cycle start over again. That is the crypto money flow cycle. And that is, in my view, what we are seeing right now. And so for that reason, I would expect that in the near future, right, and it would be in the near future, because if we're going by the 4-year cycle, which I say it every time, we can break the 4-year cycle, but at this point we have no reason otherwise to assume that we're not following it. So if we're going by the 4-year cycle, the top should be around October, meaning we have around 3 months remaining. Now, obviously 3 months isn't a long period of time, but what we've seen over and over again in bull markets is we don't need a long period of time for these altcoin seasons to really take off. We look at Bitcoin dominance drops historically speaking, and you see, yes, okay, generally speaking, they've been more dragged out than this cycle. Generally speaking, they actually last about 300 days. But what you see is that even within those 300-day altcoin seasons, where Bitcoin dominance is dropping dramatically and altcoins are pumping, actually the bulk of the drop happens within these quick little 2 to 3 week periods. And you see a few of those each altcoin season. Only one of them in the case of 2021. The point is, you don't need a lot of time for Bitcoin dominance to drop and for altcoins to run. So us having 3 months left is not like, oh my God, we're running out of time. It's like, no, we've actually got a decent amount of time remaining to see something dramatic on altcoins. The question is, when will that money start flowing from Ethereum into altcoins? And that's when we have to start looking at big catalysts, okay? What is the next big catalyst for the market? Well, the next big catalyst for the market from a Ethereum perspective is breaking above our kind of range-bound high here at 4,000 and then breaking above 4,800. Either of those things could lead to a shift in the money flow cycle and could lead to altcoins overtaking Ethereum in performance. Another big thing that could lead to that is Bitcoin breaking resistance. So you look at the Bitcoin chart and you see Bitcoin breaking above resistance right here. And obviously that's a big thing, but it didn't really lead to any change in the way the money flow cycle is happening. What could lead to a change in the money flow cycle is Bitcoin breaking above its next resistance zone, which currently sits at $123,000 and rising very slowly. And that comes from this channel right here, which is basically a logarithmic regression channel that halves on every cycle in the angle of ascension. And if that angle of ascension halves this time, it should be sitting again right here where we've just tested for resistance at 123,000 to 124,000. Same thing can be independently verified from the power law chart. Again, resistance at 124,000 roughly speaking. And so that could be the big catalyst for another move in the money flow cycle. As I explained before, a move in the money flow cycle representing a move from the funds from Ethereum into altcoins. Okay, that doesn't mean Ethereum stops rising. It doesn't even mean Bitcoin stops rising. It just means that altcoins take dominance in the market. And when I say altcoins, I'm talking about altcoins excluding Ethereum. So I am macro bullish on the market. I, continue to be heavily invested in Ethereum, and it's excellent to see Ethereum reaping, massive rewards from, basically just getting wrecked earlier in the year and in last year. It's good to see. And I do expect that money will flow into altcoins eventually, but we need a catalyst for it to occur first. And again, that catalyst could, be $4,000 breaking, it could be $4,800 breaking the all-time high, or it could actually be Bitcoin making the next move and breaking 124,000, which is the resistance we recently rejected from. Now, not to ruin everything I've just said in this video with a bit of pessimism, but I think it is important to look at the more bearish case scenarios. And there is a chance here, unfortunately, that the altcoin market, broadly speaking, has been ruined to a certain extent. We can't just ignore the fact that altcoins have not acted as they have usually acted, okay? We can't just ignore the fact that altcoin seasons have generally lasted 320 days exactly, all right, on both occasions, historically speaking. And now, if the altcoin season was to last 320 days, it would have had to have started and maintained the 4-year cycle. It would have had to have started back here in November last year. Like, we simply don't have the same length of time for the altcoin season to run. And yes, we don't need much time, as we've already explained. But the point is, there is a bit of a deviation going on here that's impossible to ignore. The characteristics of this cycle for Bitcoin specifically have been very abnormal in comparison to historical cycles. What we've seen for Bitcoin, unlike in prior two cycles where we just basically see Bitcoin just going straight upwards with very few corrections, what we've seen this cycle is a kind of step motion. We've stepped upwards, consolidated for a long period of time, stepped upwards, consolidated for a long period of time. And during these very long consolidations, we lose momentum in the altcoin market. Altcoins rely on greed, they rely on hype, and you don't see hype during 8-month consolidations, which happen over and over again. So there is actually a chance, unfortunately, that the entire money flow cycle in cryptocurrency has been disrupted to such an extent that people are not willing to take the risk in moving down the money flow cycle, to altcoins. Perhaps we just max out with the big Ethereum pump, which is what we're seeing right now, right? It's actually impossible to know. It's impossible to verify what will happen next because we've never seen a cycle like this before, okay? So that's where I get into, what would be a smart strategy to approach the situation. And for me personally, it's basically to avoid altcoins. I'm talking about broad altcoins, not Ethereum. I'm talking about altcoins, outside of Ethereum. It's basically to avoid altcoins until we actually see definitive evidence that the altcoin market is actually performing well. We see definitive evidence that the money actually is flowing from Ethereum into altcoins, and we actually are carrying out a regular money flow cycle. For me, that's what I'm doing. I'm avoiding altcoins for the most part, or at least being extremely selective with the altcoins I do choose. And it will be very clear to me when altcoins, if they are going to pick upwards in this market environment, when altcoins start to do so, because they would simply start outperforming Ethereum, which would be a big change from what we've seen in the last few months from April, which is, basically Ethereum outperforming altcoins and Bitcoin. So kind of a bit of a messy video. I haven't really shown charts to the most coherent capacity. A bit of a jumping around in the charts here, mostly just getting information out verbally. But I hope you've taken away something from it. And basically, I just want to recap here. We're seeing Ethereum outperform Bitcoin and the altcoin market. That is a good step in the right direction towards a broader altcoin season. But there is also a chance that this cycle and the characteristics of this cycle have ruined altcoin season entirely. And therefore, in order to move forward in investing in altcoins, we need to see evidence that altcoins are still basically alive, and that evidence will come from altcoins outperforming Ethereum and Bitcoin, even for a short period of time. It should be enough. Overall, the market is looking quite good. It's great to see Ethereum doing God's work here. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Before we end off the video, I'd like you to check out the Bitunix Exchange. A lot of people ask me what exchange I use as a trader. I use the Bitunix Exchange, and I don't have a contract with them. I haven't signed anything with them. I don't work for them. I advertise them on my own accord. With my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount permanently attached to your account, as well as up to 8,000 USDT in rewards just by signing up with my link down below. Why would you sign up? Well, it's global. It's non-KYC. It's never been hacked before. It's got all the functions and pairs that you would expect for a major exchange. For that reason, I use it. And I implore you to consider using it as well. Sign up with my link to help out the channel, help out yourself. Cheers.